Hey guys, this is Heri from Tur, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 238 of Richard Metalfan interviews, calling from Zoom. And after 2 long years, I return with Heri Joenson, the almighty tier. How are you doing today, man? Glad to have you back on.
I'm doing well, thanks. How about you? Great to be
Not,
back.
not too bad, not too bad. So we have some new tier music. We got the new album Battle Ballads coming out next month through Metal Blade Records. Can you talk to me about the writing and recording process, how that whole thing came to be, and that good stuff?
Yeah, it was a very hectic and interrupted and varied writing process. Some of the songs were done by the time we finished the last album, Hill, in 2019. And some of the songs were done in the meantime during lockdown, and the last songs were finished only right before uh, we finished the album, like in the last moment. So it was interrupted by me making a completely different album and by um, me moving 2 times and Tadeusz moving once. So finally, at the end of making this album, we were all living in the same country for the first time in, I don't know, 2 decades. So that made the final um, process of this album a lot more easy and less stressful to work on. So yeah, it was a bumpy ride, but we got there beautifully in the end, I think.
All right. And musically, did you want to continue in the same vein as Hell, or did you want to try something different that Tier hasn't done before?
We've done this differently than Hell, definitely. At least for me, my first conscious decision of the direction of this album was that we would make a bit more streamlined music, a bit less um, lengthy and winding songs. Um, the idea was to not test the patience of the listener to any degree. So we've made, at least for my part, a more concise, a bit less progressive, and more straight to the point album, while still trying to retain all the other elements that make up our usual music, plus uh, one more element, and that is the symphonic stuff on this album that we haven't used before,
Yeah. And
except for the live album we made, which was with a real symphonic orchestra.
all right. And what would you say like the overall message and concept is for Battle Ballads?
It's not a concept album as such. There are some recurring themes, and my thought with the title Battle Ballads, I came up with the title track and the lyrics for it before the war in Eastern Europe started. So I wasn't thinking about that at all, although I see how some of it might be seen in that light. It was more of an internal struggle. I was thinking about um, self-improvement and more in that vein. So the usual red line in our music is the inspiration from traditional music, Faroese and Scandinavian medieval ballads, not to be confused with the 90s and 80s hair metal ballads, a completely different concept. Um, and these songs are to a very large degree based on folk tales, folk ballads, lyrically and musically. And that is the main red thread. And I've tried to make the music as epic, shall we say, and uplifting and life affirming as possible. That
Right.
was my main goal for this album.
Yeah. And I know musically you have like different influences. You bring like the styles of like power metal, but also hints of folk metal. Well, sort of like the musically you also and literally you have like the Norse mythology thing going on. How do you like fit it in the music? And I'm pretty sure like everybody in the band sort of like brings like their own influence into Tier.
Yeah, and all members of the band have been involved in the songwriting this time. Even Hans Hammer, the latest member who joined us shortly before making this album. Um, we, I would say all the current lineup are all good songwriters and decent producers at least, and good singers too, so that it lends itself very easily to good songwriting, and it's just a joy to work with the guys now with the lineup that we have. Um, and everyone makes their contribution, not so much on all songs, but at least to some degree on all songs. So everyone is involved with everything to at least some degree, which is very good. When I do things alone, completely in my own way, which I have done in the past, for example, if you take the Land album, it kind of goes in one very specific direction, and I tend to go too far. It's good to have several eyes and ears over it, and get some maybe common direction. And things end up being more than the sum of their parts. And we're very pleased with the cooperation we have at the moment, and I think the result. I hope the result will speak for itself. I hope people will agree.
All right. And kind of wanted to touch upon some anniversaries because last year was, of course, 20 years of Eric the Red and 10 years of Valkyria, which is probably the album that got me into you guys. But this year is also 15 years of By the Light of the Northern Star, which is probably my favorite tier album. But what I wanted to ask is, what was sort of like the thought process going into that? And did you want to musically continue in the same vein as you did on the other albums for that, like Lay of Thrym, Valkyria, Hell, and even now Ballads?
Um, you mean going into this album, or we're asking specifically about By the Light of the Northern Star?
Yeah, pretty much like that, and how like the band has evolved from that till now with Battle Ballads.
Yeah, okay. Well, of course, we're a different lineup. We have much more experience, and starting around 10 years ago with the Valkyria, um, it became obvious to me, at least, that we have to develop our own technical understanding of recording. So what we've done is from 2013 and onwards, we've recorded everything ourselves that we could. So for the last two albums and some other albums I've done in the meantime, everything: guitar, vocals, bass, choirs, in my own little studio. Only the drums we've done in a bigger studio because that takes more technical circumstance. Uh, Taking over that process has freed up a lot of songwriting stress and recording stress that we used to have all the way until Valkyria. So we have a completely different approach now, which I think allows for much better songwriting and production. Uh, but thinking back to By the Light of the Northern Star, that one was recorded under immense stress, and it was produced and released under a very high level of stress for us, time-wise, financial, um, and time made for 2 years for from 2006 up until 2013, and that stress they have to the metal. So I'm pleased with how By the Light I am. It could have more time and more money, and I'm completely fine with it.
Yeah.
I have the feeling now that we are able to write, record, and music that we did. And that's for other people to decide. We do the best we can with the circumstances we have.
Right. And talking about your live show, because you have a really great live show. First time I saw you all was
Say
2018.
again, I lost.
Yeah. And talking about playing live, because what seeing you guys
Yeah,
live, because the one time I saw you all was 2018 in Atlanta. And it's always a great experience as seeing you live as opposed to like listening to you on CD. So how different of a mind frame is it to playing live as opposed to recording on CD?
very, very different. So when you're sitting in your own studio recording your own parts with no kind. You over and over it. And if you want to add, 5 more layers of guitar, you do that. Live, you're just there with right now and just one guitar. And sometimes I think it's music, but people to a large degree listen to music with their memory and not with their immediate. Most people who come to the show, like 100 maybe, again live, and if we miss anything, which we almost always do live, it's never perfect, but you do your best to avoid big mistakes. But I think unless something catches fire live, so there's a lot you can get away on stage thinking, oh, that was crap, but then you meet people, this experience in my life, and you just have to take people's word for it. It is okay, and but as recording on an album, the things are not. I think if we recorded an album with poor production, the two things require very different uh, to seem successful to people.
All right. And kind of like in the end to wrap things up, what's next for Tier? I am looking forward to seeing you on the tour at the Ether Realm next month. I got my ticket in VIP for the Atlanta show. Is just anything with the release of Battle Ballads that you would like to plug in terms of like more tours and stuff?
All right. So next month, uh, or at the end of this month, we go on this released before then. And while we're on tour, the album will be. We're very happy with that. It so well. Our first proper tour since the pandemic started. So the band has been, and our main focus at the moment is to get back on the road and get back up to 100 150 shows per year, and main market for a long time now, and we've been touring there, and we got to know some people. Good to see them again, and I look forward to that. And then just seeing all the places that we see every time. It's just great to get back. Um, we hope for more tours in Europe and maybe the US and elsewhere. So another album. See if we can upwards and onwards.
Yeah. So thank you, Heri. So everybody, Heri Joenson from Tier. See you next time.